Hello and welcome to the Charles Cook Podcast. The focus of this podcast is local and state issues here in the state of Tennessee. You can follow my podcast on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google, TuneIn, and Alexa. Just search for the Charles Cook Podcast. Like and subscribe on any of those platforms, and you'll be notified whenever I upload new content. And you can find most of those links on my podcast webpage at charlescookpodcast.buzzsprout.com. And you can email me at charlescookpodcast@gmail.com. So if you'd like to talk to, got an idea or something, someone that wants to join the podcast, just email me and let me know. Today, my guest is Josh Arrowood. He is a District 2 County Commissioner out of Greene County. And Josh, welcome. I'm glad to have you on the podcast tonight. So anyway, tell us a little bit how long you've been on the County Commission and a little bit of your background before we get into the question.
Thanks for having me, Charles. I've been on the Greene County Commission, I believe, since 2016. I'd run for mayor of Greene County in 2014 and lost. In 2016, my county commissioner, one of the three that I have, unfortunately passed away. They had an appointment from the county commission. I didn't get it. There was a special election, and I was able to win that seat. And I've been on there since, I believe it was 2016. Other than that, I'm a teacher. Spend a lot of time coaching different sports. I'm a history teacher, coach different sports, coach girls basketball at school. But then I've got 3 kids that keep me busy in all their sports, and I've coached them, from the time they were little on up. Still spending a lot of time doing that. Like I said, I've got 3 kids, Will, Reagan, and Maddie. Will and Reagan are high school sophomores, and Maddie's in 1st grade. Married to my wife, Candace, been married to her since 2005. So 18 years we've been together, almost 25 years total.
Cool. So sounds like you're a busy man.
Yeah, doing all that and then working on my PhD as well, working on a PhD in history out of Liberty University.
Well, fantastic. Love history. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for giving us the information, a little bit of your background. So you're a school teacher as well, and high school coach and
middle school coach.
Middle school coach. Okay. Yeah. So you coach as well. So that's good. It shows how active you are and everything. So, so a little bit of into the background of this podcast. I've done some podcast, and I got a email from a gentleman out of Greene County who had recently moved there, and he was wanting me to look into the tax increases and stuff that was going on in Greene County, and he's concerned about what's going on in East Tennessee now, because where he moved from what we call a blue city, and he is concerned with some of the things that he's seen there that's taken place in Tennessee. So with that, the first thing we want to talk about is, I know that there was a 30% or 30 cent or 30% tax.
It was about a 30% tax increase, which equated to a 38-cent tax increase.
Okay. Is that per 100?
Yeah, per 100. Okay.
So let's talk about, you know more about that. You're in Greene County. You're on the county commission. What was the purpose need of this? Can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, and there was definitely a need for something to be done, because I got a lot of the information, but we've had problems with keeping county employees. Our pay is, I assume, been lower than a lot of counties around us. But I know that we had, just before the vote, we had like 20 openings in the highway department. There was difficulty in paving roads and keeping roadways mowed because of that amount. Just losing employees. We had 10 openings in EMS. A lot of times, I believe we have 8 trucks that we try to keep on the road at all times, and a lot of times we only had 6 of them running, and that was kind of compounded with some issues that we've had with Ballard kind of being understaffed and having trouble getting our trucks back on the roadway if they had to go to a Ballard facility. The truck's sitting there waiting on a space to get somebody off of it. So, sometimes you had less than that. You had a long wait time for EMS vehicles to respond to emergencies. I know there were some instances where, people were very unhappy with the response time that they had. We had like 5 openings in the sheriff's department, and building and zoning was down to only 1 inspector for the whole county. So, there were some issues with just being able to staff the different positions, and that's one thing. Our local government, people expect, to have the services that they're paying for. If they're going to pay money, they want, that. So I'm not going to argue against the fact that, we did have staffing issues, something had to be done. And I've gotten some information on kind of the employee pay, like an EMT, they were making $11.25 an hour. A paramedic was making $14.50 an hour. Corrections officers $15.68 an hour. Highway mechanics $15 an hour. And a lot of fast food places are actually kind of getting up close to that. And one of the big problems was we didn't have step increases. Right. Like if I've been there 25 years doing something, I was getting paid what I'm, the amount. Some new hire in off the street come in making the exact same. So there you had a lot of problems with morale. So, there were some issues. Right. And I know like somebody who works in EMS said that they were working 144 hours every 2 weeks, so they were averaging 72 hours. And I'm not sure exactly how that equated. I know, they're on a certain time and then off. So their hours work a little bit different. So that's why it was over a 2-week period. It wasn't like they were doing 72 one week, 72 the next. But, just the way it works, 144 hours. So, people were having to be overworked in those jobs, so it was a situation that was getting worse. So a few years back, what they said was they were going to do this salary study, a wage study. They were going to look at counties around us. Now, one problem some of us had with that is, in Greene County, we can't be Washington County. We don't have the same type of tax base. We can't be Hamlin County. And I do get that, we're competing against them for EMS workers. Other counties around us are able to pull from us. So there is a need to kind of look at what's going on around you. But then again, we can't try to be those counties. So, there were just some issues with things like that.
Okay. And I don't know if you get Knox County news from Knoxville or you get yours out of Tri-Cities, but Knoxville's having a huge problem with their ambulance service down there.
Yeah, I don't get much out of Knoxville. Most of my news comes from Tri-Cities coming this way.
Yeah, Knoxville's having huge problems there, and they're trying to restructure contracts and stuff, and they contract theirs out with the AMR. So it's, Hamlin County is a little different. Right. But I do know someone on our board here, and yeah, we could have issues too. A lot of those issues are being brought about by the turnaround, as you said, at the emergency rooms and stuff. So,
right.
Okay.
And you got that. And with that, really trying to privatize our EMS isn't a good idea, because unfortunately they make money and we use that money to balance our budget. Should it be that way? Probably not. They're self-sustaining, but we take that away, then all of a sudden we've blown a big hole in our budget and we're having to face another tax increase. So
right. Okay. Do y'all have a lot of industry in Greene County?
compared to others, I'm not sure how it compares, but a lot of our, I guess, base on things like that does fall on industry. I know, like I mentioned, we can't be Washington County. Washington County has some industry, and then it also has, huge medical complex, education complex with like ETSU that we just don't have. So a lot of our stuff does fall on industry like that, but it's not enough to where it takes a lot of the tax burden off of the people individually. A lot of it does fall back on the citizens of Greene County.
Yeah, and I guess for the most part, Greene County is just like every other county in the state of Tennessee. The majority of the budget goes to the school system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The majority school system, and then the next biggest part's just on the people, the ones that, works in the different jobs, the county employees.
Yeah. So basically the sheriff department, the jail, and so on. Okay.
Yeah.
So the decision was made to do the 30% property tax increase.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, from what I understand, they're coming back and wanting to do a will tax increase as well. So if we're raising the property taxes 30% for retaining employees, we're bumping up the salaries and stuff, what is the projection of the new will tax increase?
Well, okay, the way the budget worked previously, we kind of went in, from my understanding, with the knowledge that we were going to be short employees. So that budgetary savings is a term that keeps getting thrown around, helped us balance our budget because we knew we weren't going to fill every position. So we had money, kind of put away that we knew we could pull from to help cover the budget. But a lot of those positions being unfilled was just going to go back into the general fund. And by increasing the tax to increase pay, you were hoping to fill those positions. And from what I understand, like last update I had, EMS had one position open. I'm not sure what those numbers are now, but that kind of helped with things on that end. But then not only were we paying for pay increases and step increases, but then you're having to pay to actually fund those positions that are now filled. And we just had our property reappraisals. We're on a 5-year cycle. Well, our last one had been in 2018, so we went through the newest one in 2023. So what happened, property values overall increased about 60%. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people think, well, my property increased 60%, so I'm automatically going to have to pay a 60% increase, which isn't how it works because the state doesn't allow you to take those reappraisals and make money off of them. So basically, if appraisals went up 60%, then you should see your property tax automatically decrease by that amount to remain revenue neutral. So whatever amount of money you take in one year is what you should take in the next year, even with the reappraisals. So that dropped our property tax rate from about 201 to about $1.2725, I think. And again, that formula you mentioned earlier, per 100, it's when you're dealing with residential property or agricultural property, they take the appraisal and you pay taxes on 25% of that. So they take whatever that number is, 25% of it's what you're actually paying taxes on. And then it's per 100. So if, $1.2725 is for every $100 your property's worth, you're going to pay $1.2725. And to fund these increases, we had a 38-cent thereabout tax increase, which increased the rate to $1.65. And we were told in a budget workshop that this will completely just go to employee raises. And then we were told it'll all go to completely to employee raises, except for $2 of our will tax that we already have, which is at $55. $2 of that is going to now go to volunteer fire department. So now part of that tax increase is going to go to fund that $2 that's lost from the general fund, now going to fire departments. And then later on, well, inflation's gone up and inflation affects government costs too. So, we're going to pay that. And then a few years back, we had done a 10-cent tax increase to fund SROs in schools. And Governor Lee, after the Nashville shooting, one of his initiatives was to fund putting SROs in every school. So now that's covered by the state. So that 10 cents, where did it go? We discussed it before the budget, and then when it came time for the budget, we found that it was absorbed into that amount. So that 10 cents, now that's 10 cents on the old appraisal rate.
Right.
That was the tax rate of 201. So that 10 cents was now put into, that increase too. So it was absorbed into that $1.27. So, we went through that. We had rumors that were kind of passed on to us of this office holder or that office holder is going to sue if you don't increase the pay. And we've been through a lawsuit with a county office holder, and those aren't fun. There's not a winner.
Yeah, we had that happen here in Hamlin County as well.
And we've taken a lot of flack for that, and maybe deservedly so. But then on the other hand, you got people saying, don't increase my taxes, and I'm opposed to tax increases. So it's like, okay, we're going to hold the line on this, and then we get sued, have to pay the lawsuit, and then you're having to pay for the increase anyway. So that was thrown out there, but we've had 1,400 building permits issued in the last 2 years. So that's a lot of potential new money that's going to be coming in. But, as our county accountant said, you can't pay your bills with money you expect to come in.
Right.
So, there's that. So there's been all kinds of issues with that. But now the discussion is because I believe about a third of people in Greene County actually own a home. So now the idea is, let's try to decrease the property tax and increase the wheel tax, kind of spread it around a bit. And I've not heard a hard set number on what the Budget Finance Committee is going to come up with to push. I know the county accountant, he has mentioned the $100 figure a few times. So raising it from 55 to 100, so that'd be a $45 increase. And based on that, I've seen the number $3 is worth a penny. When you're talking about the wheel tax, $3 is worth a penny off of the property tax. So by increasing it 45, you're looking at about 15-cent tax decrease. So that would take us from like the $1.65. I've got my notes here. I'm trying to remember. $1.65 property tax would take it down to $1.50, but then you would see the wheel tax jump from $55 to $100. And I've kind of run the numbers. My own property went from 200 some thousand, jumped up to in between 350 and 400,000. That was kind of the norm for a lot of people's property. Mine, my home was built in like 2007, 2008. So that was kind of expected that it would be a fairly decent jump. I own 3 cars, and kind of running the numbers, it's not going to make a big difference on my property. So a lot of the property owners, I would assume it's not going to make a huge difference on theirs either, really. I'd say it's going to be about a flush, or, some of the people that, maybe don't have, a very expensive property, they're going to end up paying actually a lot more. So I'm still trying to crunch the numbers on that and figure out how that's going to look if it does pass, but I'm already getting a lot of pushback even on that idea. I know, and see, I grew up in Washington County, and I remember they pushed the idea of a wheel tax, and I helped fight against having a wheel tax there. because then it just gave an extra tax for government to increase, to kind of play that shell game, which is kind of what I feel like we're doing sometimes, to where they can, okay, let's increase property tax. Okay, that's kind of high now. Let's increase wheel tax, so giving them two options to try to increase. We fought against that and stopped it. But when I came to Greene County, lived here, it was wheel tax had been in for a while. So it was something that's kind of there. And a lot of property owners, were like, why are we always getting stuck with the bill? Why are we the ones that always have to pay the money? And I get that. But then when I looked at, switching over, and I'll have to look more into how that would affect people. I don't see that it's going to make a big difference on the total amount somebody pays. I don't know how much more it's going to spread it around to people that aren't paying. And realistically, and one of the arguments I made living in Washington County was that, a renter does pay property taxes just indirectly. I mean, it's like business. You raise business taxes, a business isn't going to pay that tax. If they're able to pass it on, they're going to pass it on. And, somebody that owns a home and rents homes out, they're going to pass it on to their people. I've talked to people that own homes that they rent out, and they're like, I'm going to have to pass this tax on. I can't absorb it myself. And so, taxes always run downhill. So that's one of the issues that I'm seeing out of that. I've not had a lot of people that are even in favor of it, and kind of crunching the numbers. I don't know how that would affect, if that would be the better idea or not. I just don't know at this point.
Well, I actually talked to a renter last week here, and he's telling me, look, I'm going to have to at the first year go up on my rent, because here's what people don't see is, okay, you get a little bit of property tax increase. Well, not only do they have to increase the rent on that, they're forgetting the amount of inflation that of everything's going up. So if you got several rental properties and you have 2 air units go out during the summer, you have to replace both of them. Well, they're both almost basically doubled in cost for air units, and and then you look at the price of stoves and stuff. So renters, the landlords are going to have to start stepping up their increases just to cover for the cost of inflation of doing those things too. And people think, well, the renters are getting by scot-free. They're not, and they're going to see increases in their rent.
Right. Which with them, I guess it's spread out over 12 months potentially. So it's a little easier to take than paying all at once. But, a lot of people, they pay, your homeowner, you might be paying it through your escrow account. So, that's kind of spread out, but it's not an easy pill for anybody to swallow.
Absolutely. And nobody likes taxes. And I get that. And, and the way I see it, that we need to really look at what we're doing as a government and what we're doing with the money. I know that there's a lot of money that's misused and given away to nonprofits and stuff like that. And then people try to come back and justify doing tax increases. And I'm going to cover that in another podcast later. So now you told me that you had 1,400 building permits requested in the last year.
Yeah, that was a number that Commissioner Tim White gave.
Yeah.
And so, he was one that voted against it, because we are seeing growth in Greene County, which is quite different than when I came in, because I came in and I went down to the county commissioner training that they have in Nashville. And one of the seminars we went through was how some counties were, basically dying. The average age had gotten over the childbearing age. People getting older, becoming a retirement county. And that's kind of where Greene County was at the time. And now, we were even consolidating schools because of numbers dropping. And now, like Greenville City, they're talking about, because of enrollment going up, about building a new school. So I don't know what we're going to face with our school systems there. I've not heard anything in the county about that, but we've been seeing some growth. We've been finally seeing, like, Texas Roadhouse coming in, a new shopping center. And Greenville's always, you live in Greenville, you go to Johnson City, you go to Morristown to eat. So, we are seeing some growth in
Right.
those situations. But with jobs, I don't know how that's looking, server jobs compared to, some other high-end jobs. I'm not sure how that's going to go, but, we are seeing growth where we should see some growth with money, with tax money coming in. We just had U.S. nitrogen is coming onto our tax rolls. So, we should see some there, but, this is a huge tax increase. And it's funny because the comment was made that now Greene County has one of the lowest tax rates, property tax rates, even with this tax increase. But the funny thing is, we went from 201 to $1.2725 because of the reappraisals and because it happened to be revenue neutral. Most counties have not gone through this reappraisal process under this new housing market. And doing the numbers, and I asked the question there, we were at 201. I said, how much of a tax increase would this be? And I'd already set up the ratios and done the math. And so I kind of had an idea. And it would have been going from 201 to about 261. It would have been about a 60-cent tax increase at that point, close to it, just a little under. So it might have been about 258 or whatever. And then I've run the wheel tax numbers. Now we're being told $3 is worth a penny. So I ran those numbers under this and adjusted it to what if we hadn't have gone up? What if we had stayed at that 201? What if we hadn't have done reappraisals? And that would have put us at about a $2.90 tax rate. $2.90. We're saying we had the lowest. And I mean, if you go by sheer numbers, we do. But if you go by compare apples to apples instead of apples to oranges, being at 290, that would have put us at about the fourth highest tax rate in the state. Now, I factored in our wheel tax. A lot of counties don't have a wheel tax, and I didn't go through doing theirs. But like Shelby County's at 339. That's their tax rate. They're at the top. Montgomery County's at 299. And then Scott County inside Oneida, and I'm not sure how that works, but theirs is at 295. And that would have put us at about 290, maybe 285, 290. And based on that, that would have been fourth. Now, you take others' wheel tax in like I did ours, maybe some jump above us. But, we're not one of the lowest taxes around, one of the lowest tax counties around. And we've already maxed out our sales tax. We're at 9.75, and that's the highest. And 275 is what, comes local. And that depends on where it's collected. Half of it goes to the county or city school systems, depending on enrollment. And the other half is, collected by Bayleton or Mossheim or Tusculum or Greenville or the county. So, we've already maxed that out. And then we have a hotel tax. A lot of counties don't have a hotel tax. We do. The highest is 7.5 according to the CTAS website. And a lot of this information I'm getting is from the CTAS website. But the highest was 7.5%. Ours is at 7%. So here we've got a high property tax rate. If you compare apples to apples, we have a high wheel tax rate and talk about raising it more. We've maxed out our sales tax, and we're right there at the highest on hotel tax. So, I mean, to say we're one of the lowest taxed, I firmly disagree.
Yeah, and you get that here in Hamlin County, in Morristown, usually around the election time, or when they're trying to justify a tax rate increase. Question. In Greene County, do you all provide garbage service as part of the taxes, or do you all have a garbage fee or, a garbage tax?
We have different sites where you can take your garbage. The city does have garbage pickup. We don't. We can go to the convenience centers to take ours. I'm not aware of a fee. I believe they're funded in with the property and all of that. There's independent groups around the county that come and do your trash collection. Like I I've got somebody that comes and collects mine every Friday.
Right.
Which saves me the trip, and it's inexpensive. I'm willing to pay for that out of my pocket. Nobody telling me I have to pay for it. But.
So you have the ability to make a contract with the person, with whoever you want to hire to pick up your garbage.
Yes.
And pay them to haul it off. Or
yes.
You have the option of taking it to a convenience center.
Yes.
Okay. So that's good to know because, as I said, here in Hamlin County, the garbage is paid for in the property tax. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So but in the city of Morristown, you pay a garbage tax to have it picked up. And ours increased 33% this year. So we went from $15 to $20 a month for garbage tax in the city. Now we pay city and county taxes as well.
Right.
So that's just something to think about. So anyway, so how did you vote on the property tax increase?
I voted against.
Okay. And you want to state why you voted against it?
A lot of the information that I've kind of given, just looking over the information, that's a huge tax increase. I'm opposed to tax increases, as just, in general. But one thing I always do, and people follow me on Facebook, I try to get out the agenda every month. So everybody has it, they can see it. I try to, if there's something I feel is controversial, I try to put it out there, ask people what they think. I know we have appointments, like if a commissioner resigns or whatever, we appoint a new one. I always try to ask the people of that district who they want, because it's not my seat, it's their seat, and I want to know who it is they want. So I always do that. I always go to the people. Now if it's something blatantly unconstitutional, something like that, yeah, I'm voting how, I should vote on those. But when it comes to issues like this, I go to the people. That's who put me in the power. The seat I hold's not my seat, it's their seat. If they want to get rid of me, fine. That's their prerogative. And, I'm fine with that, because I'm there as their servant. But basically, I put out this information. Very few people responded in favor of it. Ones that did were county employees. I'm a teacher. I'm a state employee. I'm a public employee. I'd love a pay increase. I know how that works. I understand it. So I get that they want that increase. And I had some people saying, look, I'm all for them getting increases, but this huge of a tax increase, that was a non-starter. And we, when it came up for a vote, it was called, any discussion, and there was not even any discussion on the tax increase. It went in for a vote. So we really didn't discuss it. Now we did have the workshop where I feel like a lot of it went in, being talked about. And truth be known, you've been around politics, you've seen it. You walk in there, everybody knows how they're voting. The talking really is fruitless, but the taxpayer really felt like, we didn't care about them. And like I said, I'd talked to people, sat down. I even took the budget. It was sent to us in a PDF format, and it was such a large document. I couldn't even, get it, put on something. So I had to, and I'm okay with technology. I went through and found a place where I could host the PDF and then post the link to where people could find it. I met with people for several hours, just going over the budget with them, talking with them. I talked to some department heads because I had questions about the budget that didn't feel right. And some of them weren't able to really answer the questions of why theirs went up the amount it did. They were even kind of, some of them kind of wondering because they didn't understand why it went up. I was fielding phone calls. I was talking on social media. The night it broke, I was actually at the beach on vacation with my family. And I was up till probably 2 a.m. talking to people, through Messenger,
Mhm.
trying to help them understand, okay, if this goes through, what's this going to look like for me? Because people were worried. They know their assessments went up. And I'd been telling people, look, don't worry about the assessments. The assessments will not raise your property tax. I didn't want our property assessor taking the blame if it happened. And it did happen. And a lot of people blamed him still, saying, oh, he raised our property. It shouldn't have gone up that much. But realistically, that should not in and of itself raise your taxes. The tax raise was, on us, the commissioners. We're the ones that raised it. I voted against it. I would have liked to have some discussion. I even went in kind of willing because I knew this was a huge tax increase. And I did have some say, look, I know they need this because my grandma needed EMS and they didn't show up for hours, things like that. And so they were actually willing to kind of, hey, let's kind of go up a little bit at a time and do something. But it was kind of given as an all or nothing. And I know it's up to us to do, but it passed on that first reading. There's been times where we faced tax increases in the past where it's not passed. And then we sit around looking at each other, trying to figure out how we're going to fix this. There was one a few years back. I was actually up in Louisville, Kentucky with my family. My kids were competing in Bible competition. And it was on the Monday of our county commission meeting. And as soon as they competed, I left Louisville, drove back, and voted against the tax increase. It ended up passing. We'd had a marathon meeting, went to 11, couldn't come to any conclusions. And then we came back. So I drove all the way back. We were there till almost 11 again. It finally did pass, and I drove back to Louisville. This time I was actually in Raleigh, North Carolina, same thing. Drove back because of this. It was an important vote. And, it passed. We didn't even get to the point where, good, it failed. Now let's get in and try to make some cuts. But then the next month, Commissioner Chase Murray, a brand new commissioner, he and Commissioner Clemmer, who's also brand new, those two were two who decided that they didn't like the tax increase, and they actually called CTAS. And CTAS, for those that don't know, it's kind of the county legal department. If we've got any questions about what counties can or can't do, they're the state arm that we contact. And they were like, you know what, you can rescind that tax vote. Now, it was kind of at the 11th hour. We were facing the deadline from the state, because the state puts a deadline on when they have to have everything in, or they're going to come in and they're going to make some changes. And that we heard that sounds. In that rescission meeting, one commissioner even brought up the fact that we had a text group as a county commission, which was used for information purposes, which was good. We were getting pictures and updates of things, but it kind of went sideways as commissioners started kind of arguing. One commissioner, in response, I guess, to the rescission vote, said, we all know we did the right thing. And I hope that others read this and figure this out, and send there was a post talking about Claiborne County, I think it was, that was kind of going through the state coming in. A lot of just back and forth through that, highly unprofessional stuff that shouldn't have been talked about behind, the people's backs. Right. I'm one for open government. Congressman David Davis, when he was in the state house before he ran for Congress and won, he was one of the ones that pushed for open government. And I'm one that firmly believes we shouldn't be hiding anything. We should put everything out there. And that's why on my Facebook posts, I put out there, this is the commission, or this is the pay that county employees make. These are the number of open spots, and even one commissioner that was against the tax increase was worried I was going to vote for it because of the information I was putting out there, because I was just putting it out there for the people. Yeah. Because that's what I feel my job is. Not to just know, hey, this is how I feel.
The people deserve to know, no matter what. They need to know what people pay and everything else. That way, they can make an informed decision on what they want you to do as their representative.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I try to do. I try to put the information out there, whether it's in favor of my position or against my position. Because, I weigh all the information to come to my decision. They should be able to do the same thing. I shouldn't try to twist and, you know, ignore certain facts, put it out there, let the people decide. Because that's my job as a representative. That's how a republic works. You know, we're not a democracy where everybody's getting a say on every single issue, but you know, we are a democratic republic. My job as their representatives is to make sure they know the information and that they have a chance to respond and tell me what they think.
Right.
You know, it's their seat. They're the ones that are in charge. That's how popular sovereignty works.
Absolutely. And there's so many that forget that. They try to hide it and sneak it around and push it through before people know. And then they wonder why everyone gets upset. The best thing they can do is inform the public of what the truth is, and let the public make up their mind, and then they can tell you, hey, Josh, this is what we think is fair. This is what you can do. This is what we'd like to see you do. Whether it's vote for it or not, or can we work out a compromise and make it a little less? But unfortunately, government at every level tries to sneak things through and not forthcoming. Right. So,
right, and it's not just local government. It's not
right.
just local government. I realize that, but you know, this is kind of what I'm involved in and what I see, and
right,
it stinks.
And you know, the thing is, you can turn on CNN, you can turn on Fox, MSNBC, and you see all this stuff going on about Washington and all this and that. And you can, you know, sometimes you turn on the local news and you hear about, what's going on in Nashville and when the session is in Nashville, but you hardly ever get a local newspaper or a local radio station or whatever to dive into that. They really don't want to cover those stories, and when they do, they only cover the commission side of it. They don't go to the people who are there or that are against something and says, "Hey, tell us why you're against this." Cover both sides of the commission, why you voted against it or why someone else voted for it, and put that information out for the public. You know, it's usually just the one side that they support. So anyway, so I'm gonna put you on the spot here, because what do you see happening in Greene County in the next 4 years as far as growth, economics? Do you have a thought or a vision for that? Where do you think Greene County is going to go in the next 4 or 5 years?
Well, right now I'm seeing a trend of growth, and a lot of people are kind of blaming this tax increase on some of the growth because we've seen a huge influx of people from out of state. We've seen a lot of people move in from New York, California, these other states, and they're paying tremendous prices for these homes that they wouldn't get from people like us that are from here, and that's driven the home prices up. But we've seen that growth, and I'm not sure it's going to stop. And a lot of the ones I've seen come in are honestly more conservative than a lot of the people that have grown up here.
Absolutely.
They see how screwed up New York's become, how screwed up California's become in certain ways. But honestly, and I don't even want to make it, a highly partisan issue, because I've had a lot of Democratic friends contact me, and they're on my side on a lot of these local issues. We might disagree on issues at the national level, but they're from here and lived here, and they kind of have just the same ideas on taxes that we have. I know several higher level Democrats in our area, and we don't have a large Democratic Party here. It's probably larger than a lot of people would realize. But I had them contacting me when Governor Haslam tried to implement the gas tax. We had a resolution come up that was to support Haslam's gas tax, and they spoke out against it just as well. So a lot of people want to live here, raise their families, stay here, the ones that are here. But I think there is going to be some continued growth. Economic development. I mean, we're seeing some good movement towards that. We just lost, Fats Restaurant, every place that had one did, but we've not had very many steakhouses and such. And then all of a sudden, Texas Roadhouse is coming in. There's a few, and that's big for Greene County. I know for some places, it's not a big deal. I know, like Hamlin County, they see a lot of growth. And one thing that we've actually done, and I'm still not sure how I feel about it, they call it the Snaps Ferry Project. And we've got a road, Snaps Ferry Road, and there's this large parcel of land. And what we've done is we've worked with the state, we've worked with, TVA, and the county's purchased it, and they're trying to make it site ready. And part of what was said was, well, this is what Morristown does all the time. I'm not real comfortable with that. I'm not real comfortable with buying private property and us trying to fix it up. But on the other hand, I mean, and you're from Hamlin County, is that something that happens often? Is that something that's led to a lot of your growth?
Well, I can tell you this. I remember in our industrial park area out next to the Cracker Barrel at exit 8, there was some property that was bought, and it was going to be used for a coal gasification plant. And that never happened. And then it was going to be used for Van Who Bus Company, and that still hasn't happened. So, I mean, this has been 10 years.
Right.
So it sounds like a good idea, but right. I wouldn't gamble on it.
And that's kind of where I'm at. That I'm hope since we've bought the property, I'm hopeful, because I don't want to see the Greene County citizens suffer. But I don't like the idea of government buying land and fixing it up and then trying to sell it. I mean, a company could come in, buy the land, do it themselves, because if we're buying it at X amount of dollars and then we're adding ever how many dollars to fix up the site, that company could have come in and done the same thing. So I'm not, but they're saying, oh, well, we'll probably get this TVA grant or hopeful to get this TVA grant and things like that. So, I hope it works out, just for the simple fact that we own it. And I don't want to see the citizens of Greene County, harmed by our actions. Unfortunately, it seems like when government acts, the citizens are harmed by it. So we've had that problem with that, and I'm hopeful that we do see some continued growth, but also that we don't lose our identity, because Greene County is a beautiful place. You got the mountain areas out in the south end, out Camp Creek, beautiful area. The east end, where I live, a lot of nature. David Crockett Birthplace State Park right down the road, beautiful place. There's a lot of things we've had problems like with solar farms coming in, and citizens being upset that they're building one right next to them. So I want to see growth that does help us as an economy, have things where we can keep things in Greene County, where money can be spent in Greene County instead of having to go to other counties to do so. But I also don't want to see us lose our identity.
Yeah. And when you talk about the land purchase and stuff for development and industry, actually Van Who was supposed to start operations in April of 2020, the same year COVID hit, and ground has never even been broken. So it was supposed to have been built and started operations then, and it never has happened. So yeah, be careful with that. I mean, because I'm telling you, you're taking a huge bet on that.
Well, I actually was at that meeting, planning on voting against it, but wanting to hear the information. But I also coach basketball, as I said. I got my game time rearranged and everything to where I could go to the meeting. But the meeting just kept going longer and longer before we even got there. And I had to leave before that point, but it did pass. And so I guess I'm hopeful on that. But, we've been burned before on things that we were told, like we sold our election commission office, because it was older, run down, very small in a bad area where there wasn't a lot of parking, and bought a consumer credit union building that was had been a larger bank, moved everything in there. We were told, it's going to cost this amount to fix it up. And then, there was quite a bit more repairs needed than what we were told. So, that was problematic. We bought the old Tacoma Hospital property to try to, we've got kind of county offices kind of spread out. We did get it at a good deal. Won't argue with that. But, now I'm kind of worrying, or did we get taken on that? Did we make a mistake on that? Because you go off, you ask people for information you expect to be given, but like with the CCU building and such, you kind of grow more cynical the more you're in government, and it's like the Ronald Reagan quote, "I'm from the government, I'm here to help." Some of us do try to help, but it's like you feel that when you try to find out information, you're given slanted information to try to meet the ends that they want, and I've gotten to where I don't trust government at any level, at all. I ask questions and you try to listen to how you're answered, because they'll try to tell you truth, but you got to listen to exactly how they say it, because they're very specific in how they say it. And then I've seen just situations come up where it's like, are we really voting on this? Like Monday night, we had a vote on a social media policy for county employees. And it was going to restrict what employees could post. And the language stated that the county could remove the post. And I had a lot of problems with that. I spoke up about that. And the response we got was, well, this is really talking about, like, if I work in an office and I get information about somebody, I can't go post that information, privacy type information, which I can get. But the way it was written wasn't written like that. And without saying a lot, there was an issue in July where a county employee had posted something on Facebook, and an office holder that was over that employee, according to the employee, he came in yelling at her and everything, and it turned into a big problem because he wanted her removing it because it looked bad. And there's been other instances of people, making similar statements that they were told that they couldn't do this, couldn't do that, because it'd make the county look bad. And, I'm not about making the county look bad, but, we have a First Amendment, and I'm an absolutist when it comes to First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment. Third Amendment, we don't usually have to worry about, but if there's problems with it, I'd, be an absolutist on it too. So there's just certain things that it's wearing on me. I've become even more cynical. I was very cynical going into office, got in to local politics, and I was like, okay, this kind of seems different. And it was different than in DC or anything, but just the more I'm on there, the more problems like that. And I don't know, do we not read the Tennessee Constitution or the US Constitution? Do we not understand it? And I don't think we do. Make an oath to it, but who even knows what's in it? And I dare say that, and this is at any level, how many of them read it? When's the last time they read it? They have no idea of concepts that have to do with, what it means to be a republic. I mentioned popular sovereignty earlier. If I use that term, I would like to know how many, people in office, at local or state or national even have a clue what that means, or rule of law, or, what a mixed constitution is, or federalism, inalienable rights, limited government, how many of them know about Greek democracy or the Roman Republic, or even those Italian city-states during the Renaissance that had republican forms of government? Understand about the Enlightenment, understand Socrates or Plato or Aristotle's ideas on government, on liberty. Cicero, who's read Cicero's Republic, knows where, a lot of the concepts I've been talking about come from, what Thomas Hobbes thought on government, Montesquieu, Rousseau, Voltaire, Hume, Adam Smith, when it comes to economics, or even Algernon Sidney, or, how many have even read Jefferson or Madison or Hamilton and kind of understand, I don't think many do, or they would take,
Right.
the fact that they're representing people more serious, because that's the very bedrock of why we have what we have. We don't go in just trying to rule people. We are going in as their representative, and we need to understand those concepts within our government that are important bedrocks, because once we look at government worth, nothing.
Right.
We're there for certain reasons to enforce certain ideas that have been turned about for, Rome. City of Rome was founded in 753 BC. So, you're talking about thousands of years of these ideas growing, being bounced around between people to develop what we have today. And nobody knows or cares, about those. It's just what's best for somebody, without even thinking about, that Ron Paul always talked about that idea of blowback. You do something, something bad happens. They don't consider blowback what that does to our government in the long term.
Right. And
sorry for the rant.
Hey, trust me, I get it. Had a conversation with someone yesterday, and I was telling this person, these people, all they do is they attach a party to their name and they run. They don't know. They have no principle whatsoever. They have nothing that sets them firm in their beliefs. No. And I guarantee you, if you ask them, Republican or Democrat, what does it mean to be a Democrat? What does it mean to be a Republican? What does that mean to you? What in that guides you? I guarantee you they look like one of these reporters that goes out on the street and asks these college kids something, and they're like, blah, 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 blah. They don't have they're not based in anything.
No.
They have no core convictions when it comes to this. They just attach an R to their name and go out and run for office, and then people get upset. I spoke last month at the county commission meeting. I said, here you are. Our whole county government is Republican, and you're voting to raise taxes.
Yeah. Without much pushback, usually.
Yeah. I mean, without even digging into it and looking and seeing where money can be cut and stuff, and spending can be replaced. They're not principled at all. And the problem is that's throughout every level of government.
Yeah.
You have very few Rand Pauls and Thomas Masseys and folks like that in Washington. Very few of those type of people in Nashville. You definitely don't have any at the local level. Other than yourself,
and see that one commissioner I mentioned, Chase Murray, he's brand new commissioner, and you never know how somebody's going to come onto the commission. Brand new, you elect somebody new, you really don't know exactly what it is you're going to get. Are they going to get there and listen to the ones telling them this is how it has to be? That happens a lot. But, I'm proud of him because, he didn't just take the fact that the taxes went up. He and some of the others, as I said, Commissioner Clemmer, too, tried to rescind it. And Chase came in, had a list of cuts of, hey, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. It wasn't just no plan. He had it. He sits right next to me. I saw it sitting right there. And nobody asked to see it. Nobody asked what was on it. We voted down rescinding that tax increase. Yeah. And then on that first night where we had the tax increase, Tennessee was about to have that special session where they were going to talk about guns. And I made as generic of a resolution as I could that I thought would pass and maybe put pressure on in Nashville not to mess with our rights. And it, red flag laws, for example, they're not just a Second Amendment issue. The idea that you are innocent,
guilty. Yeah.
Those things, those are the bedrock of our society. You get rid of that, you might as well get rid of everything.
Yeah.
But, it mentioned the different amendments and how, each of those should be protected. And all it was saying was this amendment, this amendment, this amendment. Tennessee Constitution, talking about court cases, things like that. And it was just telling the people in Nashville, remember, you take an oath to honor the Constitution of the state of Tennessee and the United States. And just remember these rights. And it was listing rights that individuals have. And it said, just, asking to pass this to send it to Nashville. Had one vote against it.
Right.
I mean, it should have been simple.
Right.
But, and I guess that just comes from people. And I feel like I'm, kind of throwing somebody under the bus on this one, but, that should have been simple. Right. These are rights. And I didn't ask for anything, I don't even think it specifically mentioned red flag laws. Yeah. The county attorney may have kind of put that as part of the heading, but it was just, you're Nashville, when you're talking about gun rights, because that's what that session was. Remember, not only gun rights, but all these other rights that we have, and don't mess with them.
Well, I'll go even further than that, even with the red flag law and stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you DUI checkpoints.
I agree.
You're pulling up to a checkpoint and roll down your window and show me your ID. You've got to prove to me that you're sober before I will let you go. So the burden of proof is on you instead of the state. And yet all of these police officers and law enforcement officers took an oath to the Constitution. Oh, Charlie.
And the funny thing is, they got to tell you that they're going to do that before they do it. Yeah. Because they're getting ready to violate your rights. And so they can violate your rights if they do that. But yeah. I completely agree with
you. Anyway, good conversation, man. I agree with you there. So anyway, well, I think we're running up on about an hour here. So I will give you a chance to close us out. And before we finish up, stay on the line when we quit recording, and I'll talk to you a little bit more. But go ahead and tell us anything else you'd like to say before we end this.
Well, that's a lot of the problems we have in county government. And I'm not going to say everything is bad. We've actually cut our debt over the time I've been on there. So we're not running a lot of debt. Things are actually going pretty well in those things, outside, the tax increase and things like that. I'm not saying those are good. But we've been doing okay at some things, that had me hopeful. And now I've just been so aggravated at some of the things that it doesn't even seem like there's a lot of pushback on and things. But I'm hoping that we can get some things headed the right way now. I'm hoping that, next year we can actually look at some tax cuts. I know there's, the possibility of Chase bringing back a lot of the cuts he was wanting to make. There's a lot of things I'm hopeful that we'll be able to fix. Some of it we can't fix as a county government because the state really does kind of block us from what we can and can't do. A lot of people say, well, you're my elected official, you should be able to do this. Like we had a lot of people coming in saying, these people from out of state are the ones coming in. We should charge a tax for people relocating. Some states allow that. Tennessee doesn't. Tennessee basically limits the county government. Now, like you mentioned, municipal government earlier and the trash tax or garbage tax, which municipalities have, some extra leeway at times. And if you, get a charter government, you got some more leeway to kind of disperse things. But, there's a lot of good solutions potentially that really we're not able to do. But I'm hopeful that, I can even help, lead some way in working with the state to try to get rid of some restrictions, not on government, but some red tape and things that kind of stops some growth in certain sectors. I know I'm sounding kind of generic, but there's just some ideas that I'm working on there that hopefully I'll be able to release soon. And we do stream our monthly meetings live. I would like to see committee meetings streamed live, and I would like to see the audio and video fixed. The audio is terrible. People complain about it all the time. Those are some things I want to see. So I am hopeful about being able to do some things here, before my term is up. coming up here in, just a couple of years. I do plan on this being my last term as a county commissioner. Funny story, my daughter, she's 15 and she'll turn 18, I believe, right there at election time. And, I'd mentioned that this is going to be my last term, and I think she's interested in running for it. Not sure where she gets that idea after seeing everything, but I'm happy for her, and I'd love for her to go for it if that's what she chooses.
Right.
But I plan on this being my last term, and it kind of feels good. I kind of feel like some of the bindings I've put on myself over the last few years, trying to just represent the county and trying to maintain this level of professionalism, I feel like it kind of choked me a little bit, and just knowing that I'm not planning on running for the seat again, it kind of makes me feel good, and it feels like I can go out and really try to accomplish some things before this term's over.
Yeah. Well, that's what you want to do, and I hope you accomplish it, and it works out good for the people of Greene County.
And then we'll see what's next.
Yeah, and and whatever you decide to do down the road, I wish you the best on that. And
Thank you.
We've been Facebook friends for a while now, and followed you and stuff. So that's why I reached out to you and asked you to come on tonight and address this, because my followers are increasing, and I'm thankful that somebody from another county says, "Hey, man, could you cover this? I'm concerned." And so I will try to do that when they reach out to me for this, with ideals like this, and try to give them. And I hope this works and gives the people in Greene County information to help them out and make better decisions on who represents them there. So
yeah, and that's a lot of the problem. I feel like I blamed our local politicians. It's not their fault. They didn't elect themselves to these offices. It's the voters that vote for them, and maybe this will cost me votes if I decide to run for something in the future. But it's the voters' faults for putting these people in there, and then complaining about it, and then reelecting them. I mean, it's frustrating.
Well,
you got to be
Josh,
responsible for who you vote for.
well, Josh, I knowed his mother from when we were in school, and yeah, he's kind of that way, but I vote for him for her. That's the way it works,
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, well, I know that you probably got to teach tomorrow and everything, and I got to get up early in the morning as well and go to work, because I just do this for a hobby, and I've got a day job. So anyway, I know it's getting a little late here, so I appreciate you coming on and joining me. Good information, and until then, the next time, please share this podcast, especially if you're in Greene County. I'm going to run this. So watch it and share it, and share it with folks in Greene County, and help them get some information and insight on what's going on in their local county government. With that, I say have a good day. Have a good weekend coming up. Go Vols, and we'll see you on the next podcast. God bless you.